This is your World War III update with the Prepper News. Be sure to turn on notifications and don't forget to subscribe because somebody out there doesn't want you to get this information. In fact, it appears as though a lot of channels who've routinely been wrong in their prognostications, always being overly optimistic and succumbing to normalcy bias, get artificially pumped by the algorithm for some reason. Maybe people are just that fickle and naive, so more people tend to gravitate towards that sort of content. But if you want the adult point of view, you came to the right place. Here's what's going to happen next. Right now, we have 24 U.S. refueling tankers en route moving east, presumably towards Europe, possibly the Mediterranean, Cyprus perhaps, places throughout the Middle East. We don't know where exactly. Are these related to some upcoming NATO exercises that are currently going to be taking place from June 9th to June 24th? Or is this something much, much bigger? I suspect, because we know, if you didn't know already, the United States is going to war. You realize that, right? I mean, that's so painfully obvious right now. They just did that military parade that looked like another rendition of the breakdancing tweaker from Australia, in the last Olympics. That's what that looked like. If only I wasn't lazy, I would use the broken Titanic flute meme and overlay that over that military parade, that pathetic waste of $80 million. There's a reason why individualistic nations don't have military parades, because it is not in line with the whole philosophy of how they conduct military operations. When you're an authoritarian regime and you have massive armies of automatons, military parades make sense. You only have a military parade when you are weak to appear strong. Anyways, I digress. What I'm trying to say is all of the signaling in that parade, from what Trump had to say, from what J.D. Vance had to say, the fact that it coincided with the No Kings protests, the STRATCOM warnings, the emergency action messages, the 24 aerial refueling tankers, Tel Aviv, Haifa, all of Israel getting lit up like the 4th of July in ways that we have never seen before. I mean, the scenes coming out of there, the ordnance, the different types of weapons that Iran is using. This ends with the Samson option. This ends with a tactical nuclear weapon being used at the Fordow nuclear facility in Iran. That's how this is going to end. Okay, you could see this from miles away. Even the oil markets today, as this is going on, as Iran is firing volleys of hundreds of missiles at Israel, and Israel was responding in kind, the war of all wars that they said was going to lead to $500 oil. What are you seeing in the oil markets? Maybe it's changed now, I don't know. Plunge protection is probably on the case because they know what that means for inflation and other aspects of the market. But isn't that insane how normalcy bias is so overpowering? This is the exact same reason, guys, why when the Ukraine war, the day before it started, everybody, including the late Gonzalo Lira, was out there in the streets saying, see, nothing's wrong, nothing's going to happen. He probably could have got out of that country sooner than later. Unfortunately, he chose not to, like many people who got stuck in gridlock, in traffic, because they believe their government. They are going to war. The United States is going to war. All of this pantomime theater with respect to Donald Trump claiming that he vetoed a plan to assassinate the Iranian supreme leader is complete and utter nonsense. Not only did they target the guy's residence, okay? This is the exact same guy who admitted to the whole hoax of creating the illusion of having a phony enmity between Netanyahu and himself on social media in order to lull the Iranians into a state of complacency so they would basically be smoked out of their holes and congregate in one place, presuming that they would never be struck. And that is exactly what happened. Now they're repeating the exact same play, the exact same stratagem to a T, and people are falling for it online, hook, line, and sinker. Trump's not the war president? Man, I just don't understand. I don't get it. I mean, look, there's 8 billion people in the world, right? And I think the majority of those people were it not for technology, likely would have been weeded out by natural selection a long time ago. Because this is not rocket scientists. Politicians lie, okay? They lie. And that's all you need to know. If you apply that across the board, you are going to be right 99.9% of the time. And I would also like to say that for all of you gun owners out there, isn't it funny how as Americans and Canadians, we don't trust our government to confiscate our guns? So why would the Iranians ever trust our government to confiscate their nukes? Something to think about, right? Really. I mean, think about it. You don't have to like the Ayatollah. You don't have to like the mullahs. You don't have to like the theocratic regime over there, or theocratic government, as some people call it. It doesn't matter. The fact is that why would you ever, in your right mind, trust Western governments again? The Iranians know this, they're going for war. This is it. This is their inroad. Now they have all of the pearl-clutching scenes that they need. They've compiled a library of it now, hundreds of casualties in Tel Aviv, even though the casualties on the Iranian side dwarf what we see in Tel Aviv. Regardless, we're still led to believe that the strikes that Israel is doing are far more surgical and have less collateral damage, even though the numbers don't bear that out whatsoever. So anyways, Israel is shutting down all their embassies worldwide. There was a few military flights, most people miss this, out of Iran today, 2 very large planes, military planes out of the southernmost part of Iran. Apparently Sweden had closed, or not Sweden, Switzerland, is it the Swiss embassy? They closed their embassy in Iran, and so they've evacuated that place. And of course, that was kind of the proxy for negotiations with other various Western nations and high-profile individuals. So likely the Americans escorted them out of there. Even the Russian diplomats have vacated the country. So shit's going to hit the fan in Iran. The question is, does Iran already have nukes? Do they already have a nuclear deterrent? Are they going to use it? Or do the United States and Israel genuinely believe that they now have air superiority and they're going to be able to just target wherever they choose inside Iran without sustaining any sort of counterfire? I guess we'll have to see. Time will tell. There are a lot of high-profile targets in Tel Aviv, including chip fabs, fabrication facilities like Intel. There's a lot of, big tech corporations that are based out of there that have like billion-dollar industries based in and around the Tel Aviv region. There's a lot of industry, of course. Israel has a lot of dual citizens, so you're going to see a mass exodus out of there, and that is not good during a time of war because Israel has never been hit this hard, okay? They've never been checked in this manner. And as such, I think you will see a lot of people wanting to leave the country very, very soon. In fact, I heard, and I can't confirm this, but there was some, and this probably, take this one with a big grain of salt because the more I think about it, it's probably false. But there was rumors that countries were being asked to not accept Israeli dual citizens back, but that's obviously a legal issue, and I highly doubt that would be the case. So who knows, that could just be Iranian propaganda. But as much as that, you're hearing a lot of propaganda on the other side. There are rumors that the Iranian officials they're making arrangements with Russia to flee there in case the regime falls, okay? This is likely false news being promulgated by a London-based news agency called, I think it's called the Iran Times or something. You see, there's a lot of news agencies. This is the whole thing they do. There's the Moscow Times based out of London. There's the Iran International based out of London, okay? So it might say Iran or Moscow in the title. That doesn't mean it's from that country and it's an unbiased source of information. So the idea that the Iranians are getting ready to pack up and go to Russia is ludicrous, all right? Pakistan's defense minister gave a speech inside their, I presume it's a parliament-type building, and he basically said that they are wanting to pledge full support for Iran, military support. Now, some people went as far as to quote some Pakistani officials as saying that if Tel Aviv nukes Tehran in Iran, then, which likely will never happen, they'll use a nuke on some sort of military facility, because even the Israelis wouldn't do something so egregious, at least not at this phase of the conflict. What likely will happen is, according to this Pakistani official, who is unnamed and anonymous, so take this one with a grain of salt, but they're saying that they're going to nuke Israel in response to that. Who knows? Pakistan, North Korea, and China have all seemingly committed to assist Iran militarily. China has already been found on flight radar shipping what we presume to be military shipments into Iran. And it's not hard to tell, because there's only a handful of planes that are currently landing in Iran right now, because their airspace is currently closed. Turkey is deploying air defense systems near the Iranian border. A lot of these attacks on Iran with the smaller drones are coming from Azerbaijan, okay? So this could easily spill over into that region. If Iran keeps getting its critical infrastructure struck, which it will, they're about to do massive attacks. Israel is going to ramp this up to 110. Mark my words, by the end of this week, I would not be surprised if the United States openly not declares war, because nobody declares war, but joins the fight, joins the offensive. They're already on the offensive. Never mind this stuff about, oh, well, we're just helping Israel defend themselves. I mean, that's stupid when you think about it. Like, let's say, you know, you're shooting at somebody and, you know, the other person is trying to shoot back, and you're acting as a shield for the person that's shooting at them. I mean, you're on the offense. You're a co-belligerent in that conflict through and through. So make no bones about it. The United States is already involved in this war. It's just a matter of, will they put boots on the ground eventually? They're starting to try to butter up this son of the Shah guy in order to, presumably there's some people there in Iran who want that monarchical system to reemerge and have a, I guess, what they would refer to as a democracy. I guess it wouldn't be really a democracy, though, if it was, apparently the Shah is going to be a transitional government, and then they're going to have a democratic election. Who knows? We all know that what's going to happen is that the banksters are going to get in there, they're going to do their thing, as well as their multinational compatriots, and then, you know, it's game on. As I indicated, Chinese cargo plane spotted near Iranian airspace. The purpose was unclear. The IRGC general is claiming that Iran has missiles for 6 months of continuous strikes against Israel. 6 months at a rate of, what are we looking at, 100 to 200 ballistic missiles a day, plus drones. Okay, and you're exhausting the THAAD system, the Arrow system. These are very expensive systems. Now, that said, Iran is firing very expensive missiles. So it's not one of those attritional campaigns in which the ROI on the investment is better for Iran. In fact, I'd probably say that the interceptors, the cost, at least for the time being, for Israel is cheaper, so long as they're intercepting the actual missiles. They appear to be intercepting anywhere between 50 to 80% of the missiles, but we don't know how many of those are decoys, and we don't even know how much of the stuff that they've blown up are decoys inside the country, okay? Iraq is warning of a possible closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which would lead to $200 to $300 oil. It's going to happen. The war is going to spread. The UN is warning about an imminent, coordinated, multi-front ground invasion by the Iran-led Axis. Let me clarify that. That is, Israel is warning the UN of an imminent, coordinated, multi-front ground invasion by the Iranian-led Axis. The IDF is issuing evacuation alerts for Iranians near weapons facilities. Okay, so some people are suggesting that they very well could already be considering the use of tactical nuclear weaponry. But this 24 refueling planes means that a massive attack, possibly involving hundreds of planes, if not thousands of planes, if the United States and this coalition get involved. There's going to be 3 strike carrier groups in and around the Middle East in the not too distant future. And The funny thing is, guys, is that I knew all of this because I had intelligence from somebody who I can't name, but they informed me that there was going to be something big going down last week. And I mean, I knew it was going to go down anyways. I didn't know the specific time because there was all this temporizing with the negotiations. But just know that there's a plan laid out here, and what you're seeing is not something that they're doing on the fly. What you're seeing unfold, especially from our side, is a plan that has been being prepared for years and years. They have rehearsed this for years. The Chariots of Fire exercises during 2022 were the most recent exercises that simulated the exact strikes that we're seeing now. Now, the jury is still out on what the state of Iranian air defense actually is. Obviously, Israel is hitting some targets inside Iran. However, the Iranians are claiming that what you're seeing, 80% of that is coming from inside Iran. Drone strikes, leveraging and utilizing partisan groups on the ground, Mossad agents, and Iranian intel recently uncovered Mossad's attack pattern. Multiple hidden drone production sites were discovered in Tehran. The destruction in Tehran's Isfahan was mostly caused by internal sabotage. Israel used local agents and internal workshops for attacks. Danger level was expected to drop 80% as sabotage cells are dismantled. There's numerous videos of trucks and trucks being stopped that had drones in them. People who were probably Iranians who were working in cahoots with Western intelligence to execute these attacks. Israel's air power, Iran claims, is overstated. F-35s now avoid Iranian airspace, they claim. It's hard to say what's going on. They claim they even downed one, which of course would be the first in history. Now, if they did capture this pilot, I mean, obviously you would want to parade them in front of the camera, even though parading POWs is a Geneva Convention violation, which has never stopped the West in any capacity. But they're saying that the IRGC deaths stem from internal security lapses, not enemy strength. They claim that they actually advised the IRGC top brass not to meet in the manner in which they did, but something happened that they decided to congregate last minute. And of course, we all know what happened. They got wiped out. Iran now focused on eliminating internal threats before retaliation. Once cleansed, Iran plans a calculated and forceful response. War Command shifted to the Supreme Leader and Military HQ. Iran's missile arsenal remains untouched, stored underground. Israel provoked the war and Iran intends to end it, so they claim. So the Iranians right now, however, are still being quite lackadaisical in terms of how they're prosecuting this conflict. To the best of my knowledge, they have yet to declare martial law. Iranians are still sipping pina coladas in high-rise buildings, watching the bombs come in, almost gleefully, it seems. And they haven't deployed the besieged force, to the best of my knowledge, throughout the entirety of the country. If I was them, I would be tripling down on surveillance. You have a standing army of what, like 1.5 million people, probably 2 to 3 million when you add all the reserves. Those guys should be out in full force in the streets. But for some reason, there's this just flippancy about the situation, which likely these are the kind of people, we are the kind of people that you just don't underestimate because we play to win, right? Now, what's going to happen is they're going to try to overwhelm Iranian air defense. We may see a lot of fighter jets shot down, or we may see none, and Iran just may get wiped out. But I think if it was going to be that easy, then they would have done it a long time ago. And in fact, they might have done Iran a favor by getting rid of a lot of that old growth forest. So a lot of the newcomers can come up, people who are perhaps more adept with technology, with AI, sophisticated systems, and all the different types of drone tech, and just the modern warfare in general. I think you had a lot of old dogs in there who probably just needed to go anyways. So, we might have actually shot ourselves in the foot by taking out the top brass. But for the time being, it appears as though the Iranians are not taking this very seriously. I think they've realized that you can't negotiate with the West at this point, and it's only going to get worse. So that means that maybe we're going to possibly encounter more resistance. And I say we only because I'm obviously over here in the West. And of course, it's going to be my country and our country to the south, which is going to be the primary belligerents and benefactors of this conflict with Iran and Israel. So, you know, it is what it is. All I can say, guys, is the war is going to get out of control. It's going to get out of control. And who knows what the hell is going on in Russia right now, okay? I think that that situation is going to get pretty ugly pretty damn fast. As soon as NATO makes its move on Iran, we are going to see the sparks fly in Russia and Ukraine. They're going to do a big arrow offensive as soon as the West is occupied and depleted after exhausting themselves on the Middle Eastern front. And then who knows, maybe China's going to make a move. But I would not be surprised if North Korea didn't step in for the Iranians, if the Pakistanis didn't step in for the Iranians. And this perhaps explains Diego Garcia, because Diego Garcia, of course, is not only proximate to the crisis in the Middle East, but it's also proximate to India, Pakistan, and the South China Sea, all three. So it's a great place if you're trying to distribute a limited amount of strategic forces in the aviational leg of the nuclear triad. That's where you would likely deploy them. And it could have been, in fact, now that I think about it, a veiled threat to Pakistan more so than the Iranians, perhaps. So I guess we're going to find out what's going down. We're never going to know when the stealth bombers depart because they're not going to be on flight radar. They're just going to eventually, when they do fly their first sortie, we will find out, or the Iranians will find out, I suppose. But it's yet to be seen truly what is happening there. Because if it is just sabotage, and if Iran's air defense is still formidable, it doesn't have to be impenetrable, it just has to be formidable. It just has to run the risk of potential shoot downs of planes. Just one sec, I just got a notification here. I want to make sure I include 93 KC-46 fleet, and not sure how many KC-35. Holy shit. So this is going to be a big one. This is going to be a big one, guys. All right, so for the 10,000th time, that's why you got to prepare, right? You probably should prepare. You know, it's just, there's so many channels out there, you know? Every single day they talk about this shit. And then I ask them, like, what's your plan if something goes wrong? Do you have a few weeks worth of food? Do you have a few weeks worth of water? Do you have a few weeks worth of medication? Do you have an emergency solar power bank so that you can power your phone? So that you can get all the disinformation and propaganda deepfake messages when the lights come back on? No, seriously, you know what I mean, right? Do you have any cash, right? Cash, you're going to need that cash because when the lights go out, and I'm telling you guys right now, cyber attack, that's coming. Cyber attack, cyber. I'm going to make a video just on cyber because the big thing that they're going to use to likely push us over the edge with this war will be cyber. Watch. Mark my words, it is going to be big and it is going to be highly disruptive, and there's going to be a lot of pissed off people, and that will be used part and parcel as the pretense to go to war full bore with Iran. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Subscribe, guys. Please subscribe, share, turn on notifications. Thanks.